good, Horror Horde? It's your boy Horror Gamer back with another video for you, and today I'm gonna tell you about the house I grew up in a little bit and the backstory behind it that we never found out until we were about 10 years in. And if we would have kind of found out about it, we probably, I don't know, I don't want to say for sure, but we probably wouldn't have moved into that house. Okay, so where do I get started? So, I told you in the previous story, the basement story, that Horror Gamer was about 5 years old when we moved into this house. We bought it from this lady, and she said that that the spirits only left her alone in the one room. She had all her belongings in one room, and she said the reason that was because the spirits wouldn't bother her while she was in that room, but anywhere else they would bother her. So, we decided to buy the house. We moved in there. We really didn't experience much right away. It was like a progressive thing. Like, things would happen progressively. But, so, we're living there, little things are happening, like lights are turning off, TVs are turning on by themselves, lights are turning off by themselves, spigots, they're turning on by themselves. So, we put up with it, and then, let's forward it, like I said, about 10 years after we buy this house, we found out that before this woman, back in, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s, there was a woman and a man who lived in this house. Okay, and she was pregnant, and and they were together. I guess they were husband and wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or whatever. So, a little backstory: the house, where, as I know it today, was actually a built-on to the house that was back then. The kitchen didn't exist back then. The dining room didn't exist back then. My upstairs bedroom, because I was right above the kitchen and the dining room, didn't exist. And the hallway there upstairs didn't exist. So basically, it was the house, it was that, and then where the kitchen door is today, there was the back door. So you go out and you go through the back door, and there was a little shack at the end of the backyard there, around where the kitchen and everything was. Okay, so apparently this guy thought that his girlfriend was cheating on him or something. So he took her out to the backyard, beat her up really, really bad, and ultimately ended up killing this woman in our house. Okay? And then, when he realized what he did, he tried to get away, but at this point the cops were called, because I guess neighbors were hearing her scream and everything. And so the cops were called, so he was running. He was on the run. And he ended up going to this quarry that's near where I used to live. And he ended up falling in and drowning. So he ended up dying too. So there was a murder, basically almost a murder-suicide around the area of where my house is, where my parents' house is. So we didn't know this. And then, stuff started to come into play. As years gone by, people ask, did you know the history about the house? We're like, no, we don't know any history about the house. We just bought the house. The woman said that, she wouldn't leave the room because the spirits wouldn't let her go. Like, she would only leave the room to use the bathroom and take a bath, and then she'd come right back. She would not go anywhere else in the house. So, as we're living through the years in this house, people are asking, but nobody's telling us. Nobody's telling us what the fuck, happened. They're just asking us if we knew why we got the house so cheap. Because, my dad knew that there was a reason why the house was so cheap and available on the market. Because somebody was murdered in the house, or murdered on the property. So, I guess they built on to the house after that, and that's where our kitchen is now. Dining room, my old bedroom, our upstairs bathroom, all that is built on to where this was. Okay, so like I said, you fast forward through the years, all these creepy things are happening. All these neighbors are asking us, Have you heard the backstory behind the house? But none of the fuckers are telling us what the hell's going on. So one night, I was playing with my foster brothers, and I was chasing them around the house, and we went down the steps, and when I went down the steps, I kind of put my elbow through the wall because it was like a real thin drywall, so we had to get it fixed. Well, it took about a week, but during that week, I was having weird dreams about this house, and, I would be playing video games, and I'd hear yelling in the walls, like somebody arguing. Man and a woman fighting, and I hear it in the walls, but up in my room, but there was nobody there. But I would be hearing a distinct screaming and arguing, and and it would freak me out. I'd run downstairs, like, Dad, I hear screaming in my room. And of course, like I said, my dad was one of them people who I didn't bother him very much, but he would like just brush it off like it's not happening, like I'm going crazy. But legit, like I would be hearing screaming coming from my walls. Not my room, my walls. And so I went downstairs. It was almost around the time where the wall was about done being fixed. And I went into the bathroom and I noticed there was a little hole in the wall. And it had newspaper stuffed into it. So I walked up and I started yanking this newspaper out and I started reading. And tell me why this happened to me. I started reading the articles and it was about the murder in the house. How the fuck does that happen? That sounds like, it's hard for me to even believe, because it sounds like something's right out of a horror movie where somebody, solves the mystery of a haunted house. But I'm telling you, it legit happened. I think to this day they still somewhere have these paper clippings I found. These were old ass paper clippings too. About the woman's name was Angela. I forget what the guy's name was who killed her, but she was pregnant. He drug her out to the fucking shed that was in her backyard. That is now our kitchen. That used to be the backyard, and killed her in that shed. So I found these newspaper clippings, and it had like what happened. What was going down in this house. So I don't know if the previous owner, the one who sold it to us, was the one who put these newspaper clippings in there, or it was the person before her. But let me tell you something. I think it was the woman who we bought the house from, because she was weird. She was a very weird woman. And, I wouldn't put it past her to have found those paper clippings and shoved them in the wall. And then I ran over to my dad and said, Dad, look, this is what happened in this house. And he started reading these clippings. He's like, and you know what? No one told us. He's like, I wondered why we got this house so fucking cheap. So apparently the neighbors, most of your neighbors knew, but nobody said anything. We had to find out because I found fucking newspaper clippings in the bathroom wall, crumpled up. I don't know if that was a cheap way back then that they made insulation or what, but I found these fucking newspaper clippings that had, basically what happened in the house, how he went and drowned in the quarry, and then all this other stuff. And it seemed like really the most times when activity happened in that house, it was when we were renovating or we were fixing something. Like, there's this time that we were renovating the basement, because at one point I was going to have the room as my basement. I mean, my basement as my room. And, that was before all this craziness started happening. And, they were starting to put drywall and everything up there. And, the guy who was doing the drywall came up to my mom one time, and he was like, I don't mean to freak you out at all, he said, but I was down there working, and he said, I could have swore I heard you upstairs, doing your thing. And he's like, when I came up to let you know the progress of the basement, nobody was here. But he swears that he heard footsteps, a heavy, like a grown person, footsteps, walking around the upstairs of the house. But my mom, she was at the store at the time because she'd worked third shift or second shift. So she was at the store while all this was going on, and he came up and nobody was there. And then one time, my dad and I, we were handing out candy for Halloween, and it was like the kids were afraid to come up to our house. And then the one kid's mom said, well, why don't you go get some candy? There's some candy right there. And the one kid said, I don't want to go to that house, Mom. The house is haunted. This kid don't know me. This kid don't know the house, but he says that the house was haunted. And he didn't want to come up and get candy. So that was a little freaky. And then I remember one time, my mom actually told me this story, you know. Okay, Mom, I'm going to tell this story. She told me about the time where she was at home. It was around the same time the guy was doing the basement, okay? She was actually home at this point in time, okay? So she was upstairs. She was doing the dishes, you know, and she heard somebody come up the steps, the basement steps, and walk to the kitchen entranceway there. And she thought it was, you know, the guy who we had doing the drywalling downstairs. And she had made the comment, you know, hold on a second, you know, let me just dry off my hands and then we'll talk. Well, and then she turned around and nobody was there. But then she got this image of a guy who wore camouflage and like a do-rag kind of thing. And see, my cousin at the time, her boyfriend, knew the guy who killed his girlfriend. They were best friends. And so he would forever not want to come in the house. You know, it took forever to get him actually to come into the house because he never wanted to come in. Well, my mom, after she got this vision of this guy, you know, who wore boots, he wore like, and just camouflage and a do-rag. And she told my cousin, she said, ask your man what his friend wore and what he looked like, you know. Because we didn't know what the guy looked like. We just knew his name and everything. You know, I to this day still don't know what Angela looked like. You know, they didn't have a picture in that paper. They just had the article. And so my cousin went to her boyfriend and asked him. My mom said, don't say anything that I said anything. Just ask him and then let me know. So my cousin went and asked her boyfriend, you know, what did the guy look like? What did he wear? And then my cousin came back and told my mom, and it was to a T what my mom saw, the vision that my mom saw. Nobody was standing there. She just got that vision in her head, and it was to a T of how my cousin's boyfriend explained to him. So that was fucking weird. You know, your boy Horror Gamer kind of got the chills talking about that. But so basically, that's the story of the house. That's the history of the house. Somebody was murdered in the backyard, which is now our kitchen, in my room area. And let me tell you something, I got a lot of stories. You know, you don't live in a haunted house for over 25 years and not have stories to tell. And let me tell you something, that's going to be a lot of stories coming up on this page about, you know, about the time I saw a face in the mirror that wasn't mine. Yeah, that one was a fucking freaky one. About the time I had pictures and something happened, and that one was freaky as shit too. So there's a lot of stories coming up. There's a lot of ghost stories in this house that I've accumulated throughout the years. Personal experiences. None of this is bullshit. All of this legit happened to your boy. And you know, it was some freaky shit. I got goosebumps just thinking about the shit that happened. So with that being said, Horror Horde, until next time, this is your boy Horror Gamer, letting y'all know that I love you with all my heart, and thank you so much for supporting my channel. Thank you so much for coming back and watching these videos. Thank you, because that means the world to me. And I promise, as long as you keep coming back and watching this channel and supporting the channel, I promise you that I will give you the best quality content that I can come up with. The best. Okay? Well, until next time, Horror Horde, this is your boy Horror Gamer. As always, don't fear the darkness. Embrace it.